How do? It's David from David Savoury Electrical Services here today, and Nigel and I are on an electrical installation condition report for this thing here. Let's take a bit of a closer look, shall we? This is an older property. Not sure of the date, perhaps Victorian. Obviously the consumer unit isn't. We have a British General board on the wall there, dual RCD. Must have gone up after 2008, I reckon, after 17th edition came in. So it's gone up in the last 10 years or so. Not a professional install, we can see, or we suspect. There's no stickers on there, no identifying information. Fuse seals have been cut. This is a TT installation. You can see that the earthing is going into the head there. And there is a rod outside. So we're going to have some high numbers here. That's an old RCD. That used to feed the fuse board that was here. That's been cut out. We've also got, curiously enough, a whole bunch of cables here, most of which are in new colours. So the previous owner, someone's just moved in here, so they want us to check it out before they refurbish the place. The previous owner, I don't know what they did there. They must have had another board there or something. Why so many circuits are now defunct, I don't know. Obviously with the new colours they've gone in sort of post 2005, and then for whatever reason, either during the board change or just before the last owner left the property, they've just whipped it all out and cut it all off. In fact, you can see 4 screw holes on the wall there where a board used to be. Missing blank there. Obviously we'll sort that out while we're here. At least, I suppose, the fact that we have 2 RCDs there suggests that there's perhaps no earth faults. Obviously on an older property, earth faults are always what you're worried about when you're presented with a rewirable fuse board, because they're not going to be bothered about earth faults, but we probably don't have any here. Let's go see what that old fool Nigel is up to. What are you up to, you old doofus?
Just initial check of sockets, see which ones are working.
Oh, bloody hell, I didn't expect that. I thought we were right out in the sticks. There's a bloody car park right behind us here. Nigel's just doing a functional check at the moment. When we first come into the property, that's probably an old storage heater point. I wonder if that's one of the things that's been cut off. When we first come into the property, we go around with the basic socket tester. We check the lights come on. We check the socket tester reports correct polarity and adequate earthing. It's just, like I say, a really quick functional test. There's an electric rad in there now.
What FC is that?
Well, I think it's doing that electric radiator. There's a dimplex heater down there.
Yeah, so I was just looking to follow.
This is just to give us a starting point so that we know where we are at the beginning of any job, whether there's anything that is definitely going to need any closer inspection. Obviously we will be looking behind these accessories and stuff, but we want to know, are any alarm bells ringing? Is anything not working before we begin taking anything apart? And that's partly to protect ourselves, of course, as well. We don't want someone to say afterwards, well, since you've been here, these sockets don't work. Leave that going a minute, Nige. Our TIS here reports correct polarity, but high earthing. That's okay, that's just because we're on a TT. So we're expecting some high ZS readings today. Nigel's unplugging everything as we go along as well to make sure that when we come to do the tests, we don't have any appliances screwing up our numbers. There's a blank on the wall there, Nigel.
Yeah,
so
I suspect that's an old wall line.
Yeah, I reckon so. And of course, doing all this, running around and plugging stuff in and checking stuff helps us to familiarise ourselves with the place. Old fireplace there. We can see that there's a mixture of old and new accessories. There's some old MKs on the wall there. This twin socket on a Patras is obviously an after edition. So yeah, we have some later editions. We have some older accessories. I say it's quite a nice view out there, isn't it?
You'd have thought they'd have spurred from that one.
So we've got an old one that works and a new one that doesn't.
Next to a new one that doesn't, but it is only those, it's easy to identify because it is just those newer MK.
Is it just a couple of them then?
Just those two.
We've also got some of these old lighting points. There's a few of them around, aren't there?
Yeah. Otherwise.
We used to have a serving hatch in our 70s, semi-detached.
Oh, is that a pint today, is it?
Yes, please, very much.
Best
so.
bit, huh? Right.
Pint of Jack Daniels. Serving hatches should come back in, don't you reckon?
There
we go. We've got some plugs there.
Open that fridge, see if it's going off, see if the lights go off.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, I've got some booze in there. That's me done for the day. Oh,
decent.
I like their style.
We've got a dishwasher, yeah, that'll be what the other...
Did you find where the washing machine was plugged in?
Yes.
Is that unplugged now?
Yes, I've unplugged it.
Obviously, some of our white goods aren't necessarily always easy to disconnect. What about the cooker hood? Anything for that?
I haven't seen anything. I suspect it's going to be the usual behind the...
Yeah, for example, the cooker hood, it's probably behind the chimney and not accessible.
Mind you, you can access inside the top by the looks of it. It's not going up to the ceiling, is it?
Well, for socket circuits, we're not going to bother doing line neutral IR testing because there's a good chance line neutral insulation resistance is okay. If it wasn't, the breakers would be tripping. What's more important to us is whether line neutral to earth is good for insulation resistance, because that's what's going to affect the RCDs if it starts going bad. So we'll probably put limitations on for line neutral on sockets, in which case we don't have to disconnect all our appliances.
Yes.
We will do so for all the ones we can access, but...
It is a reasonably new board in here though, so you would expect...
Yeah, I don't think there's any earth faults unless those RCDs are faulty, because they're not tripping off at the moment.
They've tested it at least when they put it in.
Let's have that. The cooker is off.
I've been there, mate. Been there, done it.
Trying to find what's driving the boiler. I think it's oil fired. Now she blows. Hiding out in the back garden. Oil's bonded. Can't get to the water bond because of fitted furniture, so there'll have to be a limitation. Obviously we can do a long lead test if we can find a bit of
something remaining copper. We'll
Yeah.
have to poke it in through the paint. Look at that. How awesome.
I'm just getting excited over an ancient fire extinguisher. Do you reckon it's still got any pressure in there?
I don't know, why don't you smack the button? That's great, Harry, that's just...
Boosh!
I love that, I love that. That should stay just for the aesthetics.
I'm being very naughty and I'm opening it up without turning it off. But well, what the hell. Now, we did say we suspected that this was an amateur installation. That's not doing anything. And I think we're right. Because we've got, if you pass me the camera set, Nigel, let me just show what we've got here. We've got some pretty awful looking terminations going on there. It's like they've just sort of, well, they have just sort of wazzed the wires together and rammed them in the breaker. 40 amp, good chance that's electric shower. 32 amp, that's probably our cooker. We've got two cables going into this 32 here, so that's probably a ring. 16 amp old immersion circuit maybe.
Maybe.
It's all old colours. Two going into this 6 amp, presumably lighting. Two going into this 6 amp, presumably lighting. Two going into this 32, another ring. So we've probably got a split upstairs, downstairs socket ring, perhaps. Again, the neutrals are just a mess. You've got, look at all these loose strands here. I just haven't even been bothered to form the cable in properly and put it into the hole. It's just mashed into there. Here we fired up the Superior Lenovo, which is the
penultimately superior.
Nigel reckons he's got a better one. What the fuck does he know?
Mine is better.
These are fantastic computers, are they not, Nigel?
They are.
Absolutely great. Got a Duracell 9-cell battery in there, because the original battery was only putting out 2 or 3 hours. That'll last us all day, that bad boy. We've even got this fancy cup holder on the side, which Nigel's doesn't have.
No.
But there you go, you can stick your Gregs on top of that, and you're in business. We're using EICR. I must do a video on EICR. There's a few software packages you can use.
It's a love-hate relationship for you, isn't it? With
There's a few quirks with it that I don't like, but it's the best software I've used. If I wasn't using EICR, I think I'd go for Electroform, which is web-based. But
problem is, you always need a signal with that, don't you?
I don't know. You may be able to cache it. I don't know. The thing is, with Electroform is they charge per certificate. I think it's £1 per certificate. But we tend to bang out so many certs in a year that it's cheaper to buy a license for EICR.
So it costs more up front.
Yeah, it's quite a high price up front, but the annual updates are quite low.
It's quite good.
So once you've got it, it tends to work out rather well. Must do a video about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to be piping our information into this laptop as we go along. We actually have a 4G card in there, so we don't need to worry about lack of Wi-Fi or anything like that. We can usually have a signal on the go, and like I say, just a good robust bit of kit, the Lenovo's.
Yes.
We really rate them. Right, we power down. I'm going to start with our ZE, PFC, PSCC. They're a bit loose, aren't they? Have to make sure they're all nice and tight. I'm going to use the old TIS 859 here, and we'll just do a basic polarity test. Line neutral, you can see hopefully 230 volts there. And if I put line to earth, then yes, 230 volts. Earth to neutral, bugger all. So it looks like our polarity is okay. So on the EICR form here, I'm going to tick the box that says that we're on a TT installation. And I'm going to tick the box that says confirmation of supply polarity. Prospective fault current in ZE. Let's get those done, shall we, Nigel? I know we haven't got much battery life in the camera today. Let's take out the main earth. I'm going to get a few cobwebs in my hair today. I haven't got my hat with me. I took it out over the bank holiday and was wearing it out in the sun. We must bring Nigel's Mega out on site one day. We never see that, do we? What is it, a Mega MFT 1720?
1720, or is it 1730?
A loop test. Now because this is a TT, we're going to get a higher number than we usually see. Hopefully below 100. Ooh, 161. 200's the upper limit. We'd prefer to see it lower than that, wouldn't we, Nigel?
Have you looked at the rod yet?
Only very briefly, we'll have a look at that in a moment. So ZE 161. Of course, a high ZE, a high impedance going out, does mean a low fault current. So we can see that our fault current to earth is a measly 1.43 amps. Not kiloamps, 1.43 amps. Bugger all, relatively speaking. Actually, I'm just going to repeat that test with the earth reconnected. See if that copper gas pipe in the ground has any effect. 1.48. Let's have a look at what our short circuit current is. £712 amps. No surprise there that the neutral has a better fault current path than the high resistance earth rod outside. So our prospective fault current is 712. Well, because it's in kiloamps, it would have to be 0.712. So our first circuit, I thought it might be a shower. It's actually 40 amps feeding a cooker. So what we're going to do, we'll start there. Start at the beginning, eh, Nigel?
Alright.
Usually Nigel and I split up a bit in order to get things done a bit quicker. But we're taking our time today for the purposes of this video. The client's being charged per circuit for inspection and testing, not per hour. So it's no worries to them if we end up taking longer because we're prattling around with the camera. And to be honest, after a scorching hot bank holiday, neither Nigel and I have had much sleep over the last couple of nights. So we're in for an easy day, aren't we, Nigel, if we can get one?
I'm sweating here.
I know, it's still hot, isn't it? So I'll put a loop on. We can go and measure our earth fault loop path at the cooker circuit next. Right, there's no way on earth we're going to try and pull this bloody range out. We might end up, what is this? I think this is a linoleum floor. So obviously we'll have to put that down as a limitation that we haven't tested at the actual end point. We are testing at the isolator, and we could test through the socket, couldn't we, Nige?
We could test from the socket.
We want to test from behind it, first of all, just so that we can inspect behind there, make sure everything's tight, make sure everything's right, make sure nothing is shite.
Yeah.
And for testing here, I'm going to keep the metal at the other end at the board end, just so we're not running around getting the tester into two different places. So we're going to use the MFT Pro. Both are calibrated, both the metal and the MFT, both are within their calibration dates. So we can hopefully trust them both to come out with the same sort of numbers. Uh, 0.52. Can we check whether we had a good connection on there? I'd expect that to be a bit lower really for a 6mm.
So give it a second, yeah. Well, I am going through the switch. So do you want me to do from the other side?
Leave it there for the moment. Let's just see if we get a consistent number. That's more like it. 0.25.
I'm giving it a good shove this time.
Yeah, it just goes to show you when you're using the probes, you've really got to get them in there, haven't you?
Yeah.
But that's more like the number we'd expect for a 6mm for this sort of distance. We're only in, well, the garage is on the side of that wall, so we're not coming too far through. So 0.25 is our R1, R2 for that circuit.
Cheers.
And there's nothing to report there, is there?
Not really. The termination's a bit poor here. I can
Tidy it up a bit.
tidy that up a bit. That'll let me take a second and we'll move on to another.
Okay, you do that then. I'll go and fill in the data. Right, let's get jiggy with the IR testing.
Yeah.
Are you recording?
I am.
Oh, right, I better get on with it then, haven't I? So we're line to neutral. I've taken the neutral off the neutral bar because we want to just check what this circuit's doing and not have our test pulled down by any of the neutrals. And with the isolator off, we have 359 megaohms. I can live with that. 359. Now, let's see what both of these suckers are doing with respect to earth. So we'll join them together. Stick a clamp onto the earth. And we expect this to be high because otherwise the RCD is going to be tripping. Yeah, 378, brilliant. 378. So if we go back to easy cert here, we have our numbers plumbed in, 359, 378, tested at 500 volts. Polarity we know to be correct because we've done the R1, R2 and had line and neutral been reversed, then we wouldn't have got a number. And when it comes to measuring earth fault loop impedance, we're only going to take a measurement on circuits where it's practicable to do so, i.e. circuits with a socket outlet. Otherwise you've got to mess about sort of getting 2 or 3 probes into place on a live connection, which I don't think is particularly wise to do. So we're only actually going to take measurements where we can, and obviously that's a circuit we can take a measurement on. Obviously we'll tidy up this as we go along and put it back into a form that's less wank. Right, so let's do that now and then we'll move on to testing our first ring.
Roll.
This is one of those where they've just stuck the wires any old place. So the neutrals are in number 4, CPCs are in number 6, all for circuit number 2, and they've stuck both the CPCs in the same bit of single green sleeving.
Right.
twisted them together.
You can, in particularly awkward boards, do it from a socket, can't you, Dave?
Yeah, if we couldn't get into this, then we'd have to test it from a socket to get our ring end to ends. But like the video that James Beck posted on EICRs last week, where he managed to tread dog shit everywhere. He was in the same position where he does what we do, separates the CPCs, re-sleeves them so they're separated, and we'll put them back in the numbers they're supposed to be in. Apparently the socket circuit we found serves the front of the house, so we have a front and back split here. It seems it's on stranded cable. Let's I better check on null, don't I? It's better. Live. What do you reckon, Nige? Hot or not?
0.56. Oh, look at that.
Neutral ought to be the same. 0.38.
Close enough.
It is. We don't want to be more than 0.05 out. And CPC. Oh dear, that's a bit high, isn't it? 1.09.
It should be.
It's consistent. So we obviously got a high resistance joint on the CPC somewhere, because
That should be 0.39 multiplied by 1.67.
should be around 0.65.
Yeah, it's a little high.
Okay, it's a moot point at the moment, because what we're going to do before we do anything else, or what Nigel's going to do, is he's going to go around those particular sockets, have them off the wall, have a look behind them to make sure that they're sound and that the connections are tight, and hopefully doing that we'll come across a loose connection on the earthing somewhere that we can tighten up, and that problem can go away. So as part of the basic inspection work of looking behind the sockets, we'll hopefully find that. Some people do a sample, looking behind of a sample of sockets or accessories on the circuit. We like to try and sample as much as we can, especially if there's an iffy reading. So we'll probably be looking behind 100% of the accessories on things like the sockets here today, because we've got the time for it, and we want to do as thorough a job as possible. So like I say, hopefully we'll pick that up, but we won't bother doing our R1, R2 until we've had a closer look at that and hopefully found the problem. And while Nige does that, I'm going to have a cup of tea. I mean, I'm going to move on to the next circuit. So this is the point where we start splitting up in order to save time. I'll move on to the next circuit, and then between us we'll get through it a bit quicker.
I'm sure there are better professions where you spend your time on your knees. I might have to try one out one day.
I just realised, look at that, the neutral of the board isn't going through the meter.
Well, you got a neutral in.
Yeah, it's it's coming straight from the head, look.
Yes. Oh yes.
So you've got a line neutral going into the meter and then meter line out, but the neutral's not going through the meter. There's no seal on the meter either. Also, I've just noticed as well, there's a stinking great hole here.
That's a good thing to stick a screwdriver in it, I'm sure. Oh, is that where the...
That'll be the neutral side. I don't know if there's any live copper you can get to in there, in fact. Yeah, it's all the neutral side, but...
might still be worth... Would you reckon worth giving DNA a call or not for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, where we come across dirty great holes in things like service heads, we'll refer it to Western Power, and they can send someone out and they can decide to change it or not. So we'll give them a call in a minute and just let them know that we have some monkey business going on here. Right, I've just been on the blower to Western Power to report this damaged cutout here. Obviously it is the neutral side there, so you probably won't get a shock if you touch it, but then again, you know, it is a TT, so you've got to be a bit careful. There could be a potential difference between what the earth rod has and what's on that neutral. Either way, obviously someone's been fiddling here. We've got the cut seals, we've got that neutral not going through the meter, which probably doesn't make much difference, but rather than me taking any responsibility for stuff that I have no responsibility for, I've passed it on to Western Power, so they'll send someone out fairly soon to take a look at that and to make a judgment on what we'll do with it. They might just say, oh, that's fine, or we'll cover it with some sticky tape, or we'll just replace the whole head, or whatever, but that's their call to make, not mine. Let's go see what that old Pillock Nigel is up to. What are you finding, Martian?
I have solved a mystery, Mr. Davidson.
I say, how Scooby-Doo of you.
The sockets that weren't working, the
yes.
MKs,
Yeah.
they have 1 mils behind them. I suspect they were originally these light sockets.
Ah.
But someone's thought, I've got a modern plug on this lamp.
What a ruddy arsehole.
Rather than changing the plug top, I'll change the socket variety.
Did you know there's a regulation that says you shouldn't use 1 mil for socket outlets, Nige?
I did, sir. And
Right.
do you know how I knew that, sir?
Because we mentioned it last week in a video that we haven't uploaded yet.
You said quite a lot, sir.
And this one will probably get uploaded first. So we'll have to put that regulation down below here.
Yes, yes.
There it is.
Right here?
Right across your cock.
Yep.
So are you finding any iffy connections?
I'm finding plenty of looseness, so I'm tightening as I go, and I'm about to run upstairs and do the same as I've done in these.
Okay. I've just spoken to Western Power,
I saw you on the blower.
so hopefully they'll be here soon to make a decision on what to do with that
Right.
mess in there.
Okay. Well, I'm going to move on upstairs and continue.
Tho's only halfway through testing the sockets. As a result of his screwdriver twiddling, we can see that the CPC, which I think, what was it, 1.09 before or something like that, it's already started coming down, so he's already having an effect by going around tightening up connections behind sockets. So hopefully by the time he's been behind all of them and inspected them and checked they're tight, that number will be back where it should be. Now a lot of people go, well, you're only supposed to test what you see there and then charge for remedials afterwards, but the thing is, if you're going around checking that everything's tight and shipshape, then you're kind of curing some of these problems as you go around naturally. It's the way we see it. Obviously we could say, oh, you've got a high R2 on your ring circuit, we'll have to come back and find where that is. But again, you know, if we're performing a proper test and inspection of all the accessories we can, then we should be coming across, hopefully, this kind of fault, unless it's in some hidden junction somewhere or something like that. Anyway, we'll see what ends up there later on. Pain in the arse, those old MK sockets, aren't they, with the 4 screws?
Yeah.
But you say you've looked behind all of them now, and that's the last one on that circuit.
This is the very last socket on this circuit.
Well, while you put some serious wrist action into that, I'll go and see what the numbers are doing.
Yeah, it's going to take.
Ooh, well, there you go. That's come down by quite a lot. Or do we say it should be about 0.68 or something? So, you know, we'll get in there. If we're tightening up that last socket doesn't do it, then it is what it is. It must be something we haven't seen, either a socket we've missed or a junction under the floor or whatever, but we can, it's nice to see the numbers improving anyway. Alright, next one is lights down. Somehow I don't think I should be getting behind this accessory. These slide torches are pretty good because they've got a decent magnet on the back. So when taking out accessory screws, you can stick them to it, except that one. That one's not ferrous. Oh well, I'll probably end up losing that one. Let's have a look behind here and see what we can see. Oh, there goes a bit of paintwork with it. Good job the place is going to get redecorated. Get rid of this piss yellow colour. Oh. Singles. What is that? Oh, I see. It's a single where the outer insulations come off, exposing the black core within. Accessories like these are obviously still worth checking, but I'm less bothered about those because they're class 2 and probably haven't moved much over the years. I'm more interested in what's going on with these sort of things here. These class 1 fittings that are obviously been retrofitted to the house by persons of potentially dubious DIY quality, going by what we've seen in that board. So these are the kind of things that we'll be paying much closer attention to. Make sure they've all got their earth wires and that there's no iffy junctioning going on. Let's get the bloody ladders in here. Ooh. We've got a shitly terminated flex. So that's obviously going to
A box somewhere.
a junction somewhere, because that's not a part of the house wiring. I imagine, in fact I can see it as a clusterfuck of connector blocks. Oh, shit. That took a tumble, didn't it?
It's as tough as it's flagged up. Is it working? Is it working?
It's fine.
Ah.
Say more than that to knock a hole in the MFT Pro. It's had a couple of tumbles like that, isn't it? I've just put the light switch on. There's a loop on the circuit. We're going to have to re-terminate it. The live's just dropped out. Look at that. Is there an earth in this thing? 2.36. Not the end of the world. Probably quite high for where we are in relation to this circuit in the house. The board is only sort of a couple of rooms that way. I mean, obviously, probably didn't have a great connection on there with my probe, but it's not ideal, that is it?
Re-terminate.
The sign of a DIY. It's got a 2013 manufacture date, this light. So,
been up 5-6 years.
yeah. It's fucking dreadful things, these DIY store lights. Let's try that again with that in a bit better. Yeah, that's about the number, 1.52. Still quite high. Obviously, the junction behind there is questionable at best. Likely a load of shite at worst. But I think she wants downlights putting in here, so there's a good chance we'll be back and we'll have that out, do it properly, and get some changes made to this. But we're going to have to check these other class 1 lights because they're all been put up in the same cack-handed way, I'm sure. And also we need to find what our highest number is. I hate it when the grub screws aren't into a bayonet connection. Who designed this? What kind of asshole designs a light like this? Where you've got to hold it up and get the screws in.
Oh, it's a lovely light.
Decoratively, I'm sure it's perfectly fine, but it's designed by some prick who's never actually stuck one on the ceiling. Okay, now look at that. What is that? Look at that.
Jesus. What's going on there?
Well, for a start, no earthing is going on there.
For a class 1.
This is why you got to take a peek behind all these things. It's all very well doing sampling, but you know, you leave one out and that'll be the one you can bet that's not got the frickin' earth on it. You got chop blocks, chop block to a chop block. I don't know what kind of, they've used some kind of stranded shitty wire.
Probably going to another shitty junction up there.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I mean you can see the PVC cables, PVC coppers up there, but then they've used this nastiness to go to the light, and that's just been, the earth's just not there at all. Let's see if we've got a loop on here. Why, it beggars belief, old man. Low number, 0.45. So you know, it's a good earth. but it's not connected to the fitting. And again, you know, some people will say, well, it's not your job to make that right, it's your job just to report what you find, which is fair enough, but again, while we're here, we're just going to tidy that up. It's not worth us pissing around coming back to make it good. What's the point of putting the time into putting that back together, Nigel? Well, we may as well just sort it while we're here. But you know, I appreciate it. Everybody wants to work that way. It looks like there was an earth wire here and it just got chopped off. It's a clean cut, that. No, it's proper chopped, mate.
Proper chopped.
Proper chopped, and there's nothing on there, so I don't know what their thinking was with that. Well, let's get it fixed and carry on hunting. Nigel likes it when I chuck the rubbish into his...
Oh, you dick.
The old man's on the case. This is more of a sort of running repair wheel.
Yeah, I was going to say, could do with...
Needs a proper
access to that.
Proper junction solution doing, really. But again, there's this whole place is being refurbished, isn't it? It's all being pulled out, pulled apart. So there'll be plenty of work to be done here potentially as part of that. Obviously, it's outside our remit today, but as long as we can go away leaving it in better and safer condition than it was, and we shall sleep tonight. Not together, I hasten to add. Okay, so Nigel shenanigans. You checked behind all the sockets on that circuit you could find, and you brought it down to 0.87. Well done, Nigel. Still a bit high, and we'll have to note that on the report, but it's better than it was. So we'll have to do an R1, R2 on that. Shit, we haven't done the R1, R2 on that yet, have we? Lighting, or the first lighting circuit. Our highest number was that one we found in the kitchen.
1.5?
1.5 something, wasn't it? I'll have to play it back to find out what it was, I can't remember now. Dags. You like dags, Nigel Marsh?
I like dags. I like caravans more.
Got to make sure I don't lose track of where we are with this. So I was working on lighting, you were working on sockets. I'm going to put a cross connect on so we can get an R1, R2 out of the sockets. Right, I'm going to get an R1, R2 off the sockets, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the QTech R2 unit with our lead. Obviously we do have a plug top lead that we could plug into the tester. The trouble with that is that secondary lead would have to be nulled really to make sure that we're getting the same numbers as the other lead, and rather than pissing around nulling leads left, right and centre, we'll stick with the same lead and use this thing. On R1 we got 0.39, add that to 0.87, which we got on R2, gives us 1.26 divided by 4, we should be seeing about 0.31, 0.32. Might be a little bit higher at the front of the sockets if the sockets are a bit grotty.
0.3.
What did I just say?
0.3132, I think you said.
It's amazing I forget these numbers so damn quickly. 0.315. Yeah, so 0.3, that's fine, I can live with that.
0.315.
And again, no, don't even switched off. That one's reading 0.45 and 0.55.
Give it a wiggling. Hang on. That one's a spur.
Is it?
Yes.
So there's some discrepancy between the two, and obviously that's just down to grottiness within the socket, but if it's a spur then we expect it to be higher anyway. So
that one's on the ring.
.31, lovely.
There you go. This one's a spur, that one over there is on the ring.
And that MK's dead, is it?
Yeah. That's probably another one of your lighting.
0.31.
Circuit ones.
0.32. 0.34. 0.34.
See.
0.31, and this one obviously is
That's your lighting socket.
on lighting. Yeah. So our R1, R2s on the socket circuit came out okay. 0.55 was our highest at a spur outlet. Everything else was as expected, thanks to Nigel's twiddling of screws. IR, it's a bit low. This is...
I may have left the one upstairs turned on with the neon.
This is line neutral to earth.
Ah, right, okay.
Every time you mention neons, Nigel.
I do. Well, neons are something that would normally bring it down if it wasn't.
If you were testing line to neutral, yeah.
Testing line to neutral.
We're not testing line to neutral here because of things like that neon, and also we can't guarantee that everything's been unplugged. But again, I'm not too fussed about line to neutral and IR. It's more to do with line neutral to earth. And we're getting 22.2, which is still a pass because 1 is a fail. So we're higher than that. It just means that on this RCD, when you look at the cumulative resistances, the number that the resistance that the RCD is seeing is going to be lower than the lowest we record individually, so it's going to be lower than 22.2 here today. There's still some more circuits to test, of course. In fact, we're ready to test lighting as well now. So again, I'm going to join line and neutral and test to earth, because we're not going to go around and take all the lamps out and disconnect fluorescent ballasts and LED drivers or goodness knows what else is around. So we've got switches on and we're just testing what that circuit's doing with respect to earth. Let's have a look. 57.4, another one that's low, but it's a pass. And I think what we'll do now is put this lot back together before I lose track on where on earth I am with it all. And then we've got to find out what this next lighting circuit is doing, because it's sharing the same breaker. Jesus Christ.
Well, today
it's hot.
it is hot.
What have you got?
I've got a ploughman's, an unhealthy drink, and a hot pepperami.
Oh,
what
right.
have you got, David?
Well, I'm on the onion bhaji and mango chutney with a standard pepperami.
Well, you see, I like onion bhajis and I like sandwiches, but I don't think I'd like an onion bhaji sandwich. But you can help me decide.
Animal, mate. Do you like these jobs out in the sticks, eh, Martian? Especially on a hot summer's day.
Oh yeah, lovely.
Garage lights are on their own circuit. 2 singles coming in. You can see the black one there. Here's your grey one. Well, with the red core. There's no point in me doing much more testing on that circuit because I only have to turn around behind me and I can see singles disappearing into the light here. No earth, class 1 fitting, so there's no earth to test on that, and obviously it should have one. So that's a problem there, but not much point in me pulling it down to take a closer look really at this stage. It'll have to be replaced. Okie dokie, the second ring circuit, which is serving the back of the house. We've got ring end to ends of 0.31 and 0.35 on line and neutral. R2 CPC is a little high on 0.69. We've been round again, taken everything off, tightened it up. It was a bit higher, and that was about 0.8 something, so we brought it down to 0.69. If we add 0.31 to 0.69 divided by 4, we get something like 0.25, which we should see if we go around doing some R1, R2s now. Let's go and do some R1, R2s now. 127, again, it's going to be very slightly at the socket face, just because of the physical connection. Oops.
Give it a wiggle.
So this is an example of a socket where the right hand one is coming out about where we expect it to be. The left hand one,
I usually give it a good push in and out a few times. Give it a wang in.
there you go.
There you go, look at that.
Before we go live, let's I'll check that side, haven't I? Just been going round. In fact, you take the camera, Nige, if you could. Save me trying to use my big tool on the screen. just want to make sure that all these connections are ship shape. Bloody hell. Look at the, see the movement on that one?
Yeah.
That wasn't done up at all.
Surprised there's no cooking marks around it.
Yeah. That's a good point. Western Power have also been here. We didn't film them, of course. You can see there's a meter change label here now, because they've actually taken away the old meter and put a replacement non-smart meter in its place. The reason for that, because the seal had been cut and because the neutral wasn't going through the meter, was going straight into the head, the guy just wanted to be on the safe side, make sure that a meter was there that he trusted to be calibrated and not monkeyed with. So a small single phase watt-hour meter has gone in place of what was there. There were also open holes at the bottom of the old meter where someone could stick their finger in. I'm not quite sure why anybody would want to do that, but that gets rid of that problem. The hole in here, as you can see, is covered over with a sticker. He says he's going to arrange for the intake position to be changed by another team at a later date. So they've done their thing. Do we need to call them out? I'm not sure. I think we did for our own peace of mind and due diligence, really, didn't we, Nige?
Yes.
We didn't want to. I'd rather they came along and said it was okay rather than me passing any judgments. Both our rings have a slightly high R2, don't they?
I know my ring does have a slightly very high R2.
So does mine after those onion bargey sandwiches or whatever the hell they were. Now we need to relabel this board because it's rubbish. We also need to do RCD times and get some ZS numbers. Other than that, I think we're about there. Now, I don't think we've shown the earth spike yet. There's our rod. Nothing to say that it's a safety connection. A PVC safety connection sign there. Get us out of trouble on that one. One running repair we did here was to replace this broken socket outlet. Again, I keep saying this, a lot of people go, well, you're just supposed to record what you see there and not actually do the repairs, come back another day, do the repairs. Stupid things like that, we may as well just do them as we go along. Obviously we'll put a charge on for the fix.
Little things. I mean, if you find a job that's going to take you hours to do, then you just record it and move on.
Yeah, to be fair, we're a bit out of the way here today, and we've got so much on. We really could be doing without coming back for menial things that we can take care of on the day. And if we can pass the place,
I mean, one thing is we're
so
coming
much the
back
better.
For other work anyway, like you say, possibly down.
Well, eventually we've got a quote for it, haven't we? But
and so on. So
she has a shopping list.
There are some little fart box jobs.
Stop farting, Nigel.
Yeah, fart box jobs that we've.
If we can get the place signed off today, then brilliant.
That.
We can't because there's a couple of issues, like the C2 of the missing earth in the metal lighting.
I know you got one off that socket. What did you get?
Yeah, no, that socket's all right. Okay, we got the RCD label on the board, the two colours label on the board. These are things that a professional installer would have stuck on there. So again, not a professional job. We've also done a couple of other things. There were two lighting circuits in circuit way 2 on one breaker for lights up and lights down. We've moved lights up now onto the other side of the board. Don't know why they were both shoehorned into one breaker when there was a spare 6 amp on the left side of the board. We assumed perhaps there was a borrowed neutral here, but there doesn't seem to be. Everything is working. So it's nice to be able to split them off like that. The bunch of cables we got going on here, we found only go to the other side of the garage and then they're cut off again. So the previous owner must have had, I don't know, a workshop or a sex dungeon or something going on in here that required some extra distribution that he ripped out when he left. I've still got to put my test and inspect sticker on the board, so I'll do that now and then we'll get the hell out of here. What time is it? 3 o'clock. It's taken a while today. It doesn't always take this long to do so few circuits. And again, I know a lot of people are going, well, it's not a very cost-effective day. We have been prattling about with the camera here today, and we only booked the one job in for today because well, it's a lovely hot day and we haven't been sleeping well, so we didn't want anything too taxing. RCD's off at the moment, isn't it? Let's get that back on. There's one circuit we can't trace, that one second from the left, 16 amp radial. It was labelled water heater. There's nothing that was a water heater that we can find.
No,
So
the only suspect we had doesn't go live.
no.
Very old, so I suspect that's decommissioned under a floor somewhere maybe.
We'll wrap it up now and bugger off.
Let's bugger off.
Catch you next time.
Bye bye, children.
Oh, thank goodness they've gone.